Hello, everyone. It's Aaron Christensen with Horror 101 with Dr. AC, and welcome back to Scare-A-Thon 2024, benefiting the Women's Reproductive Rights Assistance Project. Today, we have a doozy for you. We're going to be covering an anthology film, The Profane Exhibit. Now, I remember hearing about this movie way back in 2013. There was a sneak preview of the film at Horror Hound Weekend in Cincinnati, Ohio. Now, this was back in the heyday of the multi-headed anthology films, such as VHS, The Theater Bazaar, XX, ABCs of Death, Tales of Halloween, etc., where you had a bunch of directors who were all directing basically like little short films and then putting them all together into a feature-length film. And that way these directors wouldn't have to generate money for an entire feature length. They could make their little short films, but everybody get a little piece of the pie. As is the case with most anthologies, these turned out to be pretty uneven, but it did create a little cottage industry for a while, and it allowed these filmmakers to continue working and to create networks and reach an audience that they might not have reached before, and not have to wait years and years between their next feature film. So when Profane Exhibit had its sneak preview in 2013 in Cincinnati, I absolutely showed up and I was excited to check it out. And at that time, they only had 4 of the short films completed. They put them together. And I have to say, I wasn't terribly impressed because it just seemed like mean for mean's sake or shock for shock's sake, as evidenced by the title, Profane Exhibit, like this is going to be the most intense and dark. And that just wasn't necessarily my thing. Also, I didn't find the films that terribly shocking. And that may have also been the presentation of it, because it was presented in a, oh my God, some of you may not survive this screening. And at the time, they were saying there were going to be 13 directors involved in the final project. And I honestly didn't know how they were planning to do this, because each of the films was going to be 10 to 15 minutes in length. And you had 13 directors, you do the math, that's going to be a long night in the theater. So I have to admit, I wasn't that excited about hearing about its premiere. I didn't really track it down, but I still had that morbid curiosity. And so when Unearthed Films finally released it in September of this year, I was intrigued to check it out. The final result is 10 short films, and I'll list off the directors in just a second. They're quite a catalog. And yes, there are some high points and some low points. There are certainly some questionable choices to be made. But overall, I think it's an interesting experiment for sure, and it might actually be a satisfying anthology film for a lot of horror fans out there, especially those who are predisposed to enjoy the more extreme flavors of horror. So the project was the brainchild of Manuel. She was looking to make her first short film, and she had teamed up with August Underground's Todd Scheider to create their short film, Mana. And then she had also written some other story treatments for other films and was starting to enlist other directors to make short films, and they were going to put them all together. And here are some of the directors she ended up landing. Anthony DiBlasi, who did the film Dread based on the Clyde Barker story back in 2009. Yoshihiro Nishimura, who is a legendary Japanese special effects artist, and he also directed films like Tokyo Gore Police and some of the Meatball Machine sequels. Uwe Boll of House of the Dead and Blood Rain and Postal Infamy. Ruggero Deodato, he of Cannibal Holocaust. Sergio Stivaletti, Italian master of splatter. Ryan Nicholson of Gutterballs. Nacho Vigalondo, who did the great film Time Crimes. Jeremy Kasten, who did the remake of Wizard of Gore. And Marian Dora, who I was not familiar with, but looking back at her filmography, in 2006 she did a film called Cannibal, which was based on the Armin Mies case, where a guy had put an ad in the paper asking someone to come and cannibalize him. Look it up on Wikipedia. Anyway, so we have a roster of 10 directors. Amanda Manuel served as our executive producer, as well as writing the wraparound sequences and things like that. And Stephen Biro of Unearthed Films is our supervising producer. Some of the actors they've assembled are Ellen Green from the Little Shop of Horrors musical, Eiji Shiina from Audition, Clint Howard of The Ice Cream Man, among many other things, Caroline Williams of Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, among many other things. And the subject matter of the films is all over the map. Anthony DiBlasi does Mother May I, Yoshi Nishimura does Hell Chef, Uwe Boll does Basement, Ruggero Deodato does Bridge, Sergio Stivaletti does Tough at Quorum, Ryan Nicholson does Good Wife. Marian Dora does Moors and Tabula. Nacho Vigalondo, Sins of the Father. Todd Scheider, Mana. And Jeremy Kasten, Amuse Bouche. And then there's kind of a sausage-making, meat-slicing motif for the interstitials. Vegetarians probably don't need to watch. I'm not going to go into the plots of all 10 of these because that'll be 10 little movie reviews. But suffice to say, there are quite a few high points or low points, depending on your point of view. I really enjoyed Mother May I thought Uwe Boll's Basement was pretty gnarly. Ryan Nicholson's Good Wife is mean and in the right way. Nacho Vigalando's Sins of the Father is really good and imaginative. Now knowing that Michael Todd Scheider has a background with Toe Tag Pictures and August Underground, it makes sense because watching Manna is like, wow, it's such an onslaught of in-your-face imagery, both sexual and violent. And it's interesting because I was familiar with the works of pretty much everybody on the roster except for Marian Dora. And Marian Dora's offering, Mors in Tabula, is the only period piece, and it is so well shot and it's so dark and it really packs a punch, especially given our current political climate. So this new release on Blu-ray from Unearthed Films has its slipcover, and then there are just a ton of extras. They have the premiere Q&A, which is about 30 minutes long, and then there are interview segments with most of the directors that last anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes, and it provides a really in-depth look into the making of what must have been a colossal passion project for Amanda Manuel. And I'm so happy that it is finally out there in the world for her, because this kind of is the end of a very long journey, it would seem, if it started back, in like 2011. And I'm glad that people will get to finally see it and appreciate it for themselves, decide whether they like it or not, decide which segments they like or not. And more importantly, it's going to introduce you to 10 directors that you may go and seek out more of their works. And I'm all about, keep searching, keep exploring, keep sharing the scare. So this is an opportunity to do just that. Here are 10 names to be on the lookout for, because all of them had done some really interesting work over the course of their careers. So that is the Profane Exhibit, now available on Blu-ray from Unearthed Films. You may love it, you may hate it, but it's absolutely worth checking out. And again, this is Scare-A-Thon 2024, benefiting the Women's Reproductive Rights Assistance Project. If you'd like to know more about the fundraiser, go right to this video up here. We are 1 week from Halloween, so please, now is the time. Please make a contribution to the fundraiser via the link below in the description of this video. And stay tuned later tonight for week number 4 of our box set Thursdays, where we'll be covering the Hatchet films from Adam Green. See you tomorrow, everybody.